Last Monday, we got to sit down with the 2025 Kerry All-Ireland winning captain, Gavin White. We chatted about everything from growing up in the Dr.Crokes to the daunting move into inter-county football, which reached a pinnacle point for him this year, as he not only captained the side, but he won man of the match on the day and earned himself an All-Star award. If you or your club are looking for some new gear, go to our social media channels or visit www.DNSports.com/shop and we'll be glad to help you out. So without further ado, here's our interview with Gavin White. What's growing up in the Dr.Crokes teach you about standards and ambition?
Yeah, I suppose I first started playing with Crokes, I suppose, when I was 5, 6, 7 years of age. My father used to bring me up every Saturday morning. One of my favourite days of the week, he used to come up here on a Saturday morning. He used to play good hurling when I was younger as well. And then obviously with the football after, so that was where I started playing really in the club. And I suppose when you talk about standards and stuff, my eyes really opened to, I suppose, at minor level. I suppose when Edmund O'Sullivan brought me into the minor squad when I think I was maybe 16 at the time. It really opened my eyes to maybe the standards and maybe the potential I could have as an individual, but also I suppose what the club expected from senior players. I suppose to carry the mantle and how you act, I suppose, on and off the pitch. And I suppose then as I grew into the senior team, again, I was brought in very, very young there. And when you see the likes of Gooch there and Dahi and Johnny and all those lads playing, and the standards that they hold both on and off the pitches is something that you want to carry on as well, and leave a legacy behind you, which is something I try to do, no matter where I go. So the standards are high, but I think the main thing is that there's a lot of standards on the pitch, obviously with the skills and being successful in any way possible, but also off the pitch as well, and how you act with people and how being grateful to the people that are involved in the club and everything that they do for you. So there's loads and loads of things there, but I suppose if it would have first maybe opened my eyes when I was coming into minors, and obviously it would have been instilled in me when I first came up here on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, you kind of named a few people there now, in fairness. Who would you say kind of your biggest influence was maybe in kind of your development at an early age?
Yeah, look, I suppose there's an awful lot of people I'd be highly grateful for. I suppose when I was younger, it was my father, I suppose, that would have introduced me into Gaelic games and sport in general. He would have been involved here with Crokes coaching underage as well with me. When I was, I suppose, 10, 11, 12, we were doing a bit of coaching with the club. So I suppose he was the first man really that kind of got me into it and instilled I suppose the Gaelic identity into me. And from there on then I suppose it'd be hard not to go on with this conversation without mentioning Pat Shea. I've often said in interviews when I first started playing football, I remember training on a Saturday morning here and Pat was teaching us the block down, and he was still with us last year with the senior squad, so that's a testament to him and his family. Edmund obviously would have brought me into the minor squad, which at the time I wasn't too sure myself or where I was going at that age. I suppose I was young, but he believed in me at that stage, and I'm very grateful for that, the way that he believed in me and introduced me into senior football, and obviously being such a part of my life now, I'm hugely grateful to him, and loads of other people. I suppose Vincent Casey would have been a big influence in my life, I suppose, in the last couple of years in particular, along with Patrick O'Sullivan as well from the Kerry background, and obviously with Crokes as well. And look, I could name off a lot more, I suppose, players as well that would have helped me throughout the years. But I suppose those 4 people there are the ones that spring to mind. But I could list off 20, 30, 40 names. They've all, I suppose, in Crokes, it's a special club where everyone kind of everyone backs each other, and there's no egos really. It's everyone driving the club on, and everyone has their own roles to play. Other roles are bigger than some others, but everyone has their role to play, and they all make a huge difference.
You were kind of actually saying there about when you were introduced into the minor panel and you didn't know whether you're kind of here or there. Was that kind of maybe something to do with, did you see yourself maybe playing hurling on a senior level, or was it always going to be football for you?
I suppose at that age you dip your toes into every sport. At the time I think I was playing football and hurling. I was playing off that, and soccer I was playing nice bit too, and a bit of basketball as well. And at the time I suppose the football and hurling would have taken up an awful lot of my time, and I think I suppose I was called into the Kerry minor squad there for the 2013-2014, and obviously that commitment is huge, and I obviously made a decision then to go off and play football. But I suppose football would have always been the most important sport in my life from a very young age. So yeah, it would have been football mostly, yeah.
Was there a kind of particular moment maybe in your underage career that you kind of felt like you could be able to go on to go further, maybe into kind of inter-county level, or like even from, say, I know it's very hard to figure it out in under 12 or under 14, but was there any particular moment where you kind of felt like that?
Yeah, I suppose, as I said already, when I was called to the minor squad, I was very young, very light. I wouldn't say I was going to be bullied around the place, but I was just very small for my age. And to see that Edmund would call me in time and see that he believed in me was probably something that triggered something in my head that maybe I do have a bit of potential here. Maybe I can believe myself a bit more. With numerous minor games, I suppose, there with Crokes, big games where we won after extra time and stuff. We played Brendan's over in Artford. The year now escapes my mind, but I'm sure you'll find it somewhere. After extra time, that was a big one. I suppose it was my first taste of championship football. We played South Kerry down in South Kerry, beat them after extra time, and East Kerry in Spa as well. So those 3 games spring to mind, and they'll live with me forever. But I suppose it just shows it was my first taste of football, of championship football, and the excitement that it brings, and I suppose the importance that it brought to my own family and to the club as a whole to get through big games like that. So those 3 would have sprung to my mind at that time. I suppose at senior level, then I think it would have been maybe the South Kerry county final. Again, the year I should know that, but I don't. I suppose really opened my eyes to potential that maybe I'd have as an individual and the club team as a whole. And obviously then when you go on then to win the All-Ireland 2017 was a huge one as well. So there's been numerous ones, but I suppose those 3 minor ones were ones that gave us the real taste of what championship football is like.
How would you kind of say then the culture of the club here kind of helped you as well to kind of moving into, I suppose, Kerry underage panels and then going on to the senior panel?
Yeah, look, I suppose in Crokes, I've been lucky enough that I've been probably playing with maybe a year or 2 older than me, and that exposed myself to maybe to bigger or better players, and that brought me on obviously then as well. The standards that the club holds right through from underage all the way up to senior are ones that probably that would have instilled in me, and that obviously helped me with Kerry. But yeah, look, I suppose the facilities we have up here is a testament to everyone that's involved, the sponsorship, the people who look after the pitches, the clubhouse is in absolutely fantastic condition, and that sets the standards then for what we need to do on the pitch as well as players, but also the people around the club as well.
I suppose kind of what you have the kind of standards of the club that make it, I suppose, what it is to so many people in Clarny, and kind of what do you think it is about the club that makes the players who they produce different in terms of kind of producing leaders and things like that? It's a very broad question, I know.
Yeah. I suppose a big thing I think with us, and this is not to say that other clubs don't do it, but just something I would know is that I suppose the coaches in the club that we have here, they allow us to play and they allow us to express ourselves and play in a particular way that we would have learned from underage. And from that, then players are allowed to express themselves as best they possibly can on the pitch. And maybe find an area of the game that might lend to them and obviously lend to the club as well. Does that bring on leadership? I suppose it probably does, because players are exposed to challenging conditions and they have to figure it out themselves. Obviously, we're not really taught to play in a very structured way, anything like that. It's to go out and express yourself and represent the club as best you possibly can. And from that, then I suppose you kind of grow into leadership and players stepping up and finding new ideas and suggesting new things to management. So it's a whole. It's not really that one fella is dictating everything. Like it's a whole team effort. And again, look, I don't know if I'm answering the question there, but I suppose that's where I'm kind of getting at there.
And you're talking about, I suppose, when we were saying about people who going from Crokes to Kerry level and things like that. I think it was the last Saturday week against Dublin. There was 6 in the panel. How did you find that kind of transition from club football to intercounty senior football? How was it daunting at the start, and how did you kind of deal with it?
Yeah, look, it's very daunting. suppose any player that goes into a senior dressing room, whether it be club or into county, it can be a scary prospect at first. And I suppose I was very lucky that Eamon Fitzmaurice brought me in 2016 to kind of, at that summer I was just finished my leaving cert, and I was very lucky at the time. There was a lot of Crokes contingency in the Kerry squad as well that would have helped me massively at that time. Like Sagooch was still involved, Fionn, Dahi, Johnny. They would have really put their arm around my shoulder when I first came in and brought me along and showed me the ropes, and I suppose I would have fell off them massively then, having been very comfortable with them inside the club dressing room. So for their help at that stage, that really kind of helped me kind of blossom, I suppose, at an early age. And without that, I think it would have been an awful lot harder, but very grateful to him for that as well.
Yeah. Do you kind of feel maybe an added responsibility, I suppose, kind of carrying the reputation in the club when you go to that kind of level? I suppose, say, if you're talking about maybe some clubs there who are maybe less successful, a Crokes man comes into the panel there, there's maybe an added kind of expectation. Do you feel that kind of responsibility in any sort of way when you're coming into the intercounty panel?
I think at first you probably don't, because, well, for me, and I didn't, because you're so young and you're kind of riding the crest of a wave. When I was there, when I first came in with Kerry, because we were highly successful Crokes at the time, where after we were in the middle of doing 3 in a row and obviously winning the All-Ireland in between that. So at the time, it's probably something I wasn't really thinking about, but I suppose in more recent years, you do realise that we're lucky enough to be going playing, but you're representing so much more than just playing the game. It's so much more. It's a culture down here in Kerry, and it's a huge culture in the club here in Dr.Crokes. So you're going out, you're representing so much more than just yourself on that pitch. You're representing your family, you're representing your club. Does it bring us pressures? I suppose it probably can at times, and that's something that you live with and you deal with as you get more experience. But it's certainly, when you go out on the pitch and go out on the national stage in Croke Park and things, you do certainly recognise where you came from, the people that I suppose built you up to where you were, and you have to be extremely grateful for them. And I suppose that's something I probably tried to do over the last couple of months after winning the All-Ireland is to bring the cup and stuff back to people that would help me along to get to the position I am now. So at the time, my answer would be no, because you're just so many things come at you. But in more recent years, and I reflect, and I suppose a bit more experience, you do appreciate an awful lot more where you came from, the people that built you to where you are.
Would you say that kind of appreciation was probably one of the learning, I suppose, that appreciation as the years went on was kind of maybe one of your biggest lessons maybe that you learned when going into intercounty football?
Yeah, I suppose it would be because as I said, football is a game. I suppose when I was younger, I was probably prone to maybe taking it too seriously at times, and not to say that I don't take it serious now, but I suppose it was nearly the be all and end all. Whereas now I'm kind of more going out to enjoy the game, appreciate the people that have put me in the position that I'm in now, and just do what I would have loved to do when I was 5, 6, 7 years of age, just to go out and play football on a pitch. And that certainly comes with experience and just, I suppose, going through rough times, going through the mistakes I maybe would have made in previous times, and just not getting too bogged down. Well, no, that will happen. But I suppose appreciation of people that came around me. Yeah.
I suppose kind of winning at national level is unbelievably special. How does it kind of, I suppose it's completely chalk and cheese, I suppose, in different ways, for winning at club level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Two very, very different, and two incredibly special occasions. And I'm lucky enough that I've been able to, be part of those two situations. Obviously winning Crokes in 2017, was something I think at the time I probably didn't appreciate as much as I probably should have. And for me, I would have made my debut with 15 with Crokes. So as a young fella to come in, win a county championship and go on and win the All-Ireland, it was like, I kind of felt, Jesus, it's the norm now, we're going to do this every year. And I just remember that day in 2017, the nerves in the dressing room were something that were just, as I think of it now, it was just off the scale. And I suppose that came from, I suppose a lot of the group would have gotten to All-Ireland semi-finals in previous years and just come up a bit short, and just to win that day in 17 on Paddy's Day was extremely special for those, as I know they really, really they will keep that day to their memory, and not to say I won't. I certainly will. But it was slightly different for me. I felt like it was going to happen every year, and unfortunately, as the years go on, you kind of appreciate that day a bit more. Obviously, then when you with Kerry is obviously similar and different in lots of different ways. But they are very difficult to compare. They are very difficult to compare. I suppose those two successes came in very different time periods in my career. So that's the reason why I'm saying they're slightly bit different, but certainly two incredible occasions.
I suppose kind of even this past year, like you've had an unreal year and kind of lining out as captain of Kerry. Did any of them, say when you're in the Croke Park dressing room, did any of them feelings from 17 come back to you of kind of, geez, here I was there and now here I am, kind of, did you feel any sort of nervousness before that, or was it the previous occasions kind of helped you that massively?
Yeah, the previous occasions certainly helped me. I suppose just before the All-Ireland final this year, I was just reflecting back on it now. I was very, very calm, which is very unusual to say considering the circumstances that were in it. But I suppose, and that came from the experiences I've been throughout. From an early age with Crokes, we were lucky enough to have a lot of success and playing a lot of big games, and that obviously helps you as you get older. But certainly in this year's All-Ireland final, you would have brought you back to happy memories that you would have had in the past. Obviously, the 2017 All-Ireland final would have been high up on that list. And a performance and a result on that day was something that we wanted to replicate. We'll say the Crokes has wanted to replicate on that day in 25. So certainly, yeah, the experiences, I suppose, again, like I've been lucky enough to be able to play in numerous county finals, and the pressures that bring are certainly an awful lot different to any other ordinary game. And likewise, to bring that experience into the Ireland final is obviously a huge help.
How would you kind of say your leadership role kind of evolved from, say, when you first came in the door to, which I suppose in theory it doesn't actually seem like that long ago, but you know, I suppose the years are flying on now. Kind of how massively, I suppose, did you see your kind of leadership role evolve from then to obviously captaining Kerry this year?
Yeah, again, it comes with experience. I suppose the leadership that I would develop. I suppose when I first came in with Crokes and with Kerry, I would have been seen as a very shy kind of character. I wouldn't have spoke up a whole pile in the dressing room, and I suppose one of the standards here in Crokes, and it's always said in training sessions, that you have to, every session you come to, you have to improve on some level, and that's something that I would have greatly, I suppose, burnt into my brain, that every single session that I needed to improve some degree. And as I got older, and obviously as you become a bit more important to the team and you're one of the main players, that leadership role has to get bigger for the club to succeed. And that's something I suppose I would have targeted an awful lot over the last couple of years in particular. And obviously being nominated as captain last year was, I won't say added more pressure, but it allowed me to maybe explore that area a bit more. But it certainly came from, I suppose, just being, I suppose, a player that the other players would depend on, and obviously then you want to see the club be successful, so you're trying to explore yourself a bit more there. But yeah.
I suppose realistically, in the year of the final just gone by, like you yourself had the perfect day. Like you had the man of the match, captain, lifting Sam Maguire. Then after, I suppose, kind of you're balancing your leadership kind of role, and then I suppose shaping your own performance then kind of throughout the day and for every sort of part of it. I suppose it must have been unbelievably satisfying for you coming out of it.
Yeah, it was like, it's very difficult to put into words on, to tell you the truth. That day went by so quickly, and it was just, I'm not sure if I truly reflect on it for another couple of years and I look back on it, because obviously it was just a dream coming true. Like it was something that as a young fella you always dream of playing in Croke Park and you winning All-Ireland, and you knew it was possible, but you weren't quite sure if you could really get there. And just from, I suppose, an individual point of view for my own self, I was just incredibly proud of myself that I was able to, I suppose, just rectify mistakes I would have made in the past, and maybe put those scars to bed, put those demons to bed a small bit. So that reflecting over the last couple of months, that's the big one for me, that I was just able to get a big performance on myself, show to the country that what I was put to that I would have shown at club level here, but to produce that at national level, something that was incredibly satisfying, and it's just very hard to put into words, to the truth, like, yeah.
I suppose kind of when you went up the steps to the Hogan stand, like to collect the Sam Maguire, winning the medal match and everything like that, I suppose, what kind of thoughts were you, I suppose, as you're going up the steps? I know it's probably impossible to remember now, but what kind of thoughts were coming into your head? Was it kind of family, friends, club? I suppose it was just all the above, really.
It was, yeah. It happened so quickly. I was thrown into it all of a sudden, but I do remember walking up the steps, and it's something that I'll never forget, obviously. And I just remember, like, the I suppose memories came back to me of maybe tough times I went through in the past, or I suppose the people that would have been close to me that would have helped me get to this position. How I first started off football, where did I begin? At home, kicking off the back of the house with my father, and here in Crokes clubhouse there on a Saturday morning, just where it all began. And to, I suppose, just to get to that position was something that I would have loved to have always happened. Wasn't quite sure if it did happen, and just to be in that position was very, very surreal.
I suppose kind of for young people, young, I suppose, players now playing with the Crokes in the academy, I suppose, kind of like yourself, the kind of what would you kind of maybe say to them about, I suppose, seeing a club man like yourself for their age, 6, 7, 8, 9, growing up, kind of seeing someone as yourself going and achieving what you have achieved, I suppose, what would you be able to kind of tell them in a kind of past tense side of things, of what it I suppose maybe takes to get to that level? What would kind of be your main, if you were to give someone a bit of advice, basically?
Yeah, it's certainly not easy, and there's obviously every year as the year go on, the commitment level, I suppose, that's involved to play into county, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year. So obviously the commitment point of view is obviously huge, but a big thing for me is just the love of the game. You've got to have a passion for it. You got to realize who you're playing for, or the people that came before you, the legacy, I suppose, that you want to leave behind you. And I suppose the jersey is obviously a big one that you're playing. You're obviously playing a game through love, and it's great to be doing that, but you're representing so much more than just the person you are playing the game. You're representing people that brought you up, who bought you your first pair of football boots, who bought you your first football, who brings you to training, who looks after the facilities here, who coaches you, so on and so forth. So the love of the game, recognising the people who are around you, the support system around you is incredibly important, and it's something that I probably only really recognise again over the last maybe 3 or 4 years, how important those people are. And look, the club, or like we always say in club matches here before big games, that you're representing the people around you, the people that say prayers for you before big matches, and people that support you no matter what the result goes. So yeah, I suppose the advice, there's loads of different things I could say, but for me that kind of sums up in a nutshell the people around you.
Yeah, I suppose kind of at what point kind of maybe did you see yourself as a leader, I suppose, probably just before maybe captaining Kerry, but even with Crokes, what kind of point did you say to yourself that, okay, yeah, no, I feel maybe different this year, that I'm willing maybe to speak up a bit more?
Yeah, I don't think I would have actually really would have called myself a leader, to tell you the truth. I would have just went out and tried to express myself as best I could every day. And as I said, try to get better every single session. And I suppose with that then in turn, some of my leadership qualities were enhanced, and I was able to show them off them without me, I suppose, particularly knowing about it. I suppose if we would ask any players, I suppose earlier on in my career, I wouldn't have been the type of person who would have been talking inside dressing rooms or speaking up inside in half time inside dressing rooms. I'd much prefer to go out and show them the pitch. And then obviously then as I've gotten older, obviously other stuff comes up in play. But I'm not quite sure if there was ever a point where I would have thought that, okay, I'm a leader here. Inside any Crokes dressing room, we try and have 15, 30 leaders inside dressing room. That's what we aim to have. And whatever I can do to help the person beside me inside dressing room to get the best out of themselves, I'm going to try to do for the betterment of the club, rather than myself, because I'm truly aware that this thing is not that bigger than just me.
Yeah, I suppose kind of what would you say the responsibility kind of comes with maybe being seen as maybe a role model, and maybe not just to people in Killarney but Kerry and beyond, maybe in the last 4 or 5 years or so?
Yeah. Again, look, I suppose it's something that's been instilled in me since I was very, very young, and I suppose it's no coincidence that a lot of those things I would have learned would have been from being up here so often with the club. That obviously I've grown up in a family that would have very good morals, and would have always had honesty and trust has been a big part of their lives, and that's something that is obviously instilled in me, and I always wanted to express that as best I possibly can. From a footballing point of view, obviously, I went out to play a game that I loved, that I always wanted to play, and I've always looked to try to get better and better and get the best of myself and bring people along with me. And obviously, in recent years, obviously the role model you're talking about there, like I never thought that the people would be looking up to me, young lads now, but and it's something that I'm deeply indebted for. But it's something that's been built into me since I was young. I think from the coaches that would have coached me all the way along. I've mentioned numerous times already that obviously on the pitch you have certain things and responsibilities that you have. I suppose off the pitch as well, that's equally important as well. And again, look, the 15 players that go out and play a football match, they're only 15. They're a small cog in the big wheel here in this club. And that's something that I would have learned massively through my younger ages coming to senior level as well.
I suppose probably for nearly every kind of GAA player, their fondest memories of playing at their club is always kind of the academy. How can you sum up the kind of the academy when you were there in a nutshell, if you could?
If I could, yeah. It's not easy. Yeah, look, as I said, I like as a young fella, Saturday mornings were, you always look forward to Saturday morning because it was an early start. My father used to bring me in. I used to pop here, play an hour and a half of hurling, and then you were up playing another hour and a half of football. And it was a great culture at the time that was built just around fun at the time, because I suppose Saturday mornings, it's about fun, it's about meeting your friends and developing skills and so on and so forth. But to sum it up in a nutshell, it was something that I loved. As I said, Saturdays were my favourite day of the week because I was able to get off the Crokes, I was able to meet friends, practice the skills, play football. Obviously, you would do different trips going around the place, playing different clubs and going on buses and stuff like that. So they would be my fondest memories. But impossible to sum up in a nutshell. It was a great culture that was built here, and it was certainly one of my best days.
I suppose I kind of a part of you probably thinks as well, like at the same time that you're kind of saying to yourself, maybe when you're 13, 14, 15, kind of maybe when things are getting a bit more grueling and demanding in training and things like that, you're probably thinking to yourself, I wish I was back down at the Saturday morning. This is just, I know it comes with the territory of kind of getting older and things like that, but I suppose it's just when the kind of, I wouldn't say the fun stops kind of thing, but I'd say it's just kind of coming away from the academy as well in some sense kind of must be hard as well, really.
Yeah, I know. You would remember because I remember under 12s, you used to always go on the top pitch when I was playing on a Saturday morning. I was under 10s.
Yeah.
Whatever, it was a senior group. Yeah. And then after that, there was like, whenever that finished, like, Saturday mornings are finished, now you were training the Tuesday and the Thursday sort of thing. Like, and that was a change. But, yeah, it was, I suppose, yeah, it was like, as I said, at Saturday mornings, it was all about fun and enjoyment, and that's obviously something that carried on all the way up. But obviously got a bit more serious then, tactically, and just, I suppose, there was competitive matches and medals and trophies on the line that you want to win. So that element kind of, I won't say took over, but it got a bit more serious. But it was just great fun Saturday mornings. That's I suppose the word I would sum it up for me.
I suppose you kind of mentioned him earlier about Pat O'Shea, and he comes kind of hand in hand as well with the academy. And one thing that I kind of always say about Pat is that when I was playing the academy myself, you'd come in the gate and he'd know everybody's name. And I think it's kind of what he has succeeded as a manager of club level and inter-county level. He's just, I think, how could you describe Pat, if you can?
How could I describe Pat if I could? Jesus, yeah. Look, I suppose he's obviously he's a legend of the club. He, as I said, look, one of my fondest memories here is him coaching me here on a Saturday morning. As you said, he knows every kid's name. When you come in the gate, he knows everyone. His commitment to, I suppose, the black and amber. It's second to none. Like, it's very hard to describe the character of the Pache is. A very demanding character, and as a manager, he would have demanded an awful lot out of me, particularly in recent years. Sometimes it would have frustrated me, but I know for the whole thing, it was for the betterment of the club, and I'm incredibly grateful for all the support he's given me. But certainly, I wouldn't have been the player that I am now without his guidance and support, right from a Saturday morning all the way up until All-Ireland final, senior All-Ireland club final. And as I said, that's just a credit to who he is and who his family are, and all his family are greatly involved in the club here. But very, very hard to sum Pat up. He's just a magician in what he does. He incredible coach. Always looks to get the betterment out of players and wants them to improve, but at the same time, wants them to recognise the whole club as a whole. It's not just football. It's the history of the club. It's the culture of the club. It's leaving the jersey behind in a better place, and that's something that he would have instilled in all of his players right from a very young age. But obviously, a bit more senior level. So, I find it very difficult to sum up in a couple of words. But I don't think the club will be where it is now without his coaching, his leadership, and all his individual, I suppose, all his individual traits that would make the club as big as it is now.
How important would you say kind of the community aspect of the club is to the wider achievements that the club actually go on to achieve on a broader scale?
Yeah, look, as I said already, like it's key really. Any high functioning elite squad all over the world, they have an unbelievable background team that supports them. And I don't mean background team as in physios or kitmen or all that. It's the people around the players, family, partners, supporters, the people who look after the clubhouse here every single day of the year. It's absolutely critical. And I suppose the success that we've had in the pitch, and if you see why we've gotten that, obviously we've had some generational players come through the club, but the people behind the scenes who look after everything behind the scenes, and you see the clubhouse we have here now and the facilities we have here now, it's a testament to everyone that's involved. And you talk about community there, community is absolutely huge. Like I mentioned numerous times already, that when you go out and play, you represent the people that I suppose who've gone before you, who represent the jersey already, the people who are up in the stands wishing you the best of luck, are there for you in the good times and bad times. They're the people that you're playing for first and foremost.
I suppose to sum up, probably the last one now is what does the Crokes mean to you?
Yeah, as I said, look, I'm incredibly indebted to this club. Truthfully, I don't know who I'd be or where I'd be at or what I'd be doing if it wasn't for this club or what I'd be doing. They've shaped everything that I've done in my career to date. And I mean that from a footballing point of view, but from off the pitch as well. The structures, the standards, are something that I would have learned from a very, very young age here, and then it progressively improved as I got older. But incredibly indebted to this club. Love playing for the black and amber, and it's something that I'll continue to do for the future. And look forward to, I suppose, giving back in any way I can when I do finish playing football, because you truly recognise the effort and the commitment that's involved in keeping this club running and keeping it to a high standard. So yeah, look, it's everything to me. All my best friends are part of this club. My family are incredibly proud to be part of the club, and always have been down through the years. So in essence, I don't know where I'd be without them.